Hey guys, now if you've been interested in making video at all, you've probably at some point thought about whether you should get a DSLR for video or a camcorder like this one. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to both and certain situations where one might work better than the other, and they definitely have different target audiences and markets. So I'm going to talk to you about whether you should get a DSLR or a camcorder and which would work best for you. Now, camcorders like this one are really designed to be easy to use. That's the main selling point of them. You simply pop it open, you can hit record, and everything is done for you. It usually has auto white balance, auto exposure, auto focus, all that stuff preset. It's used by people who really don't want to worry about all the settings. Now, that could be either an advantage or a disadvantage depending on who you are. If you're someone who wants to have fine control over all the aspects of the video, you might be frustrated by a camcorder when you can't change the white balance, you can't change the focus, you can't change the exposure, that kind of thing. That's the real advantage of a DSLR. DSLRs are pretty much marketed towards people who have a pretty good idea of what they're doing. Now, that's not to say that they don't have auto settings. There is usually an auto everything setting on your DSLR, and you might want to just use that anyway. But a lot of times the manual features aren't even an option on something like this. Another thing that you might want to consider is if you're going to use an external microphone. A lot of camcorders, they do have an external microphone input, but they might not have a manual sound adjustment. They might have auto gain control, which can get annoying if you're going from a really quiet room to someone talking. It's going to bump up the audio when they're not talking, and it's going to change the audio level constantly. But if you know that there's going to be talking at one level, you can set it manually on a DSLR so it won't change the audio level. Now, another advantage of having a DSLR is that it's going to typically have a bigger and better sensor. Now, when I use my camcorder, for example, I notice you really have to have a lot of light, or else it's going to have to bump up the ISO automatically, which is going to introduce a lot of noise, which typically looks really bad. If you're not shooting professional video, this probably wouldn't really matter to you, like a home video or something like that. But if you want to put something up professionally and have it seen by other people and be criticized, noise is going to be a big deal, and people are going to really see that, and it's going to be kind of annoying. The reason a bigger sensor has better low light performance is because it's able to capture more light even in lower light situations, so it doesn't have to bump up the sensitivity of the sensor, and which introduces noise. The real reason camcorders have a smaller sensor is because they're simply cheaper. Another advantage of having a bigger sensor is that you're going to have a higher control over focus and bokeh in the background. A bigger sensor means that there's going to be a shallower depth of field. You have higher control over the depth of field, which means that if you're focused on a subject, then the background is probably going to be a little bit blurrier if you open up the aperture wider. You really can't do that with a camcorder. So it definitely gives you more stylistic freedom if you're interested in that kind of thing. Now, yet another advantage of DSLRs is interchangeable lenses. Now, these are starting to become available on more point-and-shoot oriented cameras like mirrorless cameras, but DSLRs have interchangeable lenses. So if you want to upgrade one, you can just pop on a different, better lens, and you can't do that with camcorders. Now, this might all be great, but there are a couple disadvantages for a DSLR. The main one is price. Camcorders, you can probably get a little over $100 for the big name camcorders at their lowest end, such as Samsung, Panasonic, Sony, those kind of things. The lowest end are going to be around $100. But for a DSLR, the more entry-level ones, the modern ones at least, are going to cost you around $300 or so for a half-decent one. Now, that's not to say you couldn't buy an older model that would probably work just as well, but it would be a little bit cheaper. So you might be able to get one for $200 or maybe on Craigslist or something used for even cheaper. But in general, a DSLR is going to cost you a little bit more than a camcorder. So by now you might have an idea of which one you want, but I want to point something out. A lot of people don't really realize that no matter what camera you get, you can often significantly increase the quality of your video just by improving the lighting. A lot of people say, oh, my video looks dark, or it looks like crap, or something like that. But you can actually buy for about $100 a set of studio lights, which are going to be compact fluorescent lights, which you just have off to the side, and it will pretty much illuminate your face and everything around you in the shot so that you can lower the ISO and open and close the aperture a little bit, which is going to make your video way sharper. It's going to remove most of the noise, if not all of it, and it's going to make your shot look so much better, and people don't really think about this. And that's actually what I'm doing right now. I have 2 sets of fluorescent lights. I think they cost just over $100 for 3 of them. I'm only using 2, but the dramatic effect is really worth the price. So even if I was using my camcorder, which has really bad low light performance, and that's pretty much the biggest disadvantage, it wouldn't even matter if you have adequate lighting. The same is going to go if you buy an older budget DSLR, which is going to have lower light performance. If you have enough lighting anyway, or if you're filming outside, that disadvantage isn't going to matter because you have enough lighting. You're not going to see the noise. So if you have a camera right now and you don't like the way it looks, whether you think it has too much noise or in general like not enough lighting or it can't handle the low light, try considering getting a set of lights before you go out and buy a whole new camera, because you might be able to solve the problem without spending so much money. I'll put a link in the description to some CFL light setups that you can use, and they're actually way more affordable than buying a whole new camera. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll show you an example of what this is going to look like when I hold up my camcorder with the lights on versus the lights off if I was just recording in my room regularly. So here we have what my video looks like right now. I'm on my camcorder as well. So as you can see, there's pretty much zero noise because the lights are right there, and it might even look a little bit overexposed because it's pretty close to the lights. But as you can see, the video really looks pretty decent. Now, I'll shut off the lights and show you the same thing. Alright, so this is what it would look like without the lights. It's not that bad, honestly, because I have a window right there, but you might notice a little bit extra noise, and that's because it has to bring up the sensitivity of the sensor to make it lighter. I'm really sure you can see the difference, so just consider getting a new lighting setup before you get a camera if you can, or if you think that would be an advantage. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope you guys had a pretty good idea of whether now you want a DSLR or a camcorder. There are advantages to both. Mostly, to sum it up, a camcorder is going to be a lot easier to use. You don't have to worry about individual settings, but a DSLR is going to be able to give you more control over the manual options as well as having automatic settings, but it might cost you more. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you rather have a DSLR or a camcorder? And also, if you have any questions, you can leave a comment and I'll usually respond to that. I do check the comments. If you guys want to subscribe, I try to make new videos multiple times a week now, so definitely worth it to subscribe. And also, if you want to like the video, that would really help me out and I'd appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter. I do check my Twitter and I try to respond to as many as I can. So I guess that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.